Listen,
What
man.
up? What up? What up, man? Listen,
What's going
we are
on?
back
We
again.
back.
And yo, I'm super,
Oh,
super excited, bro, that we are able to do a live one more time, man.
well, and we
Another,
got to say that, right? Because I don't know
yeah,
if everybody knows, is this going to be the last time that
yeah,
they see us virtual? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
And I'm pushing back from the screen so I can, show my guns, because I've been,
Listen,
I mean,
listen to me. Listen to me. I promise you. I promise you. That was coming up next. I'm like, I see the results. I
bro,
see the results, man.
yeah,
I
man,
see
I'm
you.
hitting the gym.
Yo, I see it. I see it. Yo, do
And
you
it's
have a?
hard.
Are you doing it? You got a personal trainer? What does that
Hard,
look like?
man. I got I got a trainer, man. This I have to keep one because I think I mean just to go into it if we want to get into it, my biggest issue, my biggest challenge is with food. And that sounds so
Yeah,
crazy. But
yeah,
I think I was just telling people I'm like the challenge I've had, I spent thousands. When I talk about thousands of dollars, you talking about investing in yourself. I've spent thousands of dollars getting a trainer and trying to stick with the trainer. And the one thing that they all have said to me, Cole, it's your diet, man.
yep,
If
yep,
you can commit to the diet, you'll be straight.
yep.
But I have an emotional connection to food, so
Man.
just dealing with that.
Yo, that's crazy. Like you tapping right into it already.
Yeah,
You are not holding up, man. When we talking about producing um, results, man. It's crazy. I'm here in Traverse City, right? And and I tell people, bro, that my main lane, right, is serving fathers, and I happen to be a speaker. And
yeah,
when I started out, my whole goal was to be a professional speaker.
mm,
And when I look back, man, God told me to reverse engineer it, as far as producing the results. I was chasing the speaking career. And, my coach, who is still my coach,
yeah,
is the number one motivational speaker in the world, and that's
yeah,
Eric Thomas, right?
yeah, yeah,
He is someone that I can call on the phone at any time, get advice, and I meet with him, right? I just met with CJ, who is his right hand man, this past Monday, right? And when I think back of why I went to them when I was launching my business, I went to them seeking guidance on how to launch my speaking career, and where my wife was on the side and she was supporting me, but she's just like, babe, I need you to stay focused on this fatherhood. I didn't
mm,
want to listen. And we talk about
really,
producing results, right? I didn't want to listen because all I wanted to do was be a motivational speaker. And so what I had to do, if we tapping right in, you said you have this
yeah,
emotional connection, right? This emotional connection I had, man, I was driven by money. I was driven by bread, right? That was that thing. And when I finally surrendered to the guidance of my wife and my coaches, even though I didn't want to do it, what was drawing me was the money. Like what's drawing you is the food, right? Bad habits. The money was causing me to make bad decisions,
yeah,
saying yes to the wrong things. And so when I started restraining myself and started really
mm,
listening to those who had wisdom, who God put in my life
yeah,
to give
yeah,
me wisdom, that vision board that I had started becoming a reality. Right, getting rooms right off the water. Right, I mean, like, not to show and to like yo, look at me. That was a vision. That was on my vision board. God, I want to be able to do these things, but it didn't start happening, Cole, until I started focusing on the right thing, and the right thing was chasing my assignment. And
yeah,
so, how you talk about food being the thing that would be your kryptonite to the progress of your working out, money was the kryptonite to my success.
yeah. Yeah, and it's funny for me, like, it when I pull back the layers, it wasn't the actual food that was my kryptonite. It was the memories of not having food.
Mm,
It was the trauma of living in, a scarcity of food.
yes,
Really, really, I think impacted
bro.
my decision making. And so I think what's really important too, like when we think about it, when we unpack our traumas but in order to unpack our traumas, we also have to understand what our behaviors are. And so when I started doing this assessment on my behavior, and why I was making the choices that I was making, it started really to lead back to me going back to my childhood and recognizing like, oh, you have a relationship with food that goes beyond just the natural way of eating food for fuel. You're eating food for when you're sad, you're eating food when
Good.
you're eating food when you feel alone, you're eating food when you feel bad. Like and then when I pulled back that, I was like, "Oh, food when I felt that way as a child was comforting."
That's good.
Not having food growing up at times um cause issues, but when you did get it, you savored it. Like
That's
it was the
good,
best.
bro.
Right? And so I didn't know that my childhood traumas were still impacting my adult choices as it related to me being um conscious of how I'm eating. Now I'm spending thousands of dollars on trainers. I'm spending thousands of dollars on all of these different types of things to help me lose weight, but not really recognizing that I had not spent thousands of dollars of really unpacking what was going on with my mind, with my mental health,
Good.
and to food. And it's an ongoing thing. I have to still
Absolutely.
be, "Oop, nope, don't eat that," or not feel bad or guilty or ashamed when I do eat something that doesn't align, right? Because
That's
again, that
good.
guilt, shame, all of that manifests itself, and then before you know it, you're making even more poor choices because of those decisions. So, yeah, man, that's been one of the things that I constantly am struggling with. But just to your point too, I never had the desire to be a motivational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even like speaking. Like
Mm,
like it's crazy that I'm sort of thrust into this space, but it's not something I actually enjoy doing. I only started doing it because people started asking me and
yeah,
then noted that organizations were saying, "Hey, we want you to come and speak."
that's
And
good.
then for their galas, right? And they're making their fundraisers, and I come in and speak, and they're getting millions of dollars. And then I check this bag that they give you at the end of your speaking
Yeah.
engagement when they ask you to come and speak, and it's like a $25 gift card. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, that doesn't make sense. I carried
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use that story of mine. And I was like, no, we're gonna take that story back.
Yeah.
So just owning it has been, just kind of been my thing. But it took me a while to grow into that because speaking was, I get nervous. I people think, oh, you do it with so ease. I'm like, man, I fumble sometimes because
Yeah.
it's hard. I'm an introverted guy, so
Yeah.
I don't like to be extroverted, but I have to. But
Yeah.
my natural space is to be introverted, doing my own thing, ducked off somewhere quiet and away from people.
Man. That's
But
good, man.
yeah,
That's good.
got the
That
right.
man, I appreciate, just to go back real quick to what you said about the food, Cole.
Yeah,
I appreciate you really breaking that down, right? How you said it's not the food, it's the memories of the food. And
yeah,
so when I even look at myself, it's not, not necessarily like the money, right? If we get to the root, it
yeah,
was the scarcity of money. And
yes,
so, um,
yeah,
and so and I don't want people to think that my childhood and all that was horrible, because I had a
yeah,
great
yeah,
childhood,
yeah.
right? Because we I had provision. You're right. I may not have what I wanted, but I had what I needed. My mom grinded to make sure we had. My mom went in debt to make sure that I had what I needed. But it's still
Mhm.
those things that I wanted that I couldn't get, right?
Yeah,
And my mom was willing to go in debt and do whatever she needed to do to get me what I wanted, right?
that's good.
And so I never, I really didn't want her to be in that situation. So now, like when I've gotten older, I believe that's why I chased the bag, right? Why I had chased the bag, because I never wanted to be broke. And when I had to file bankruptcy, bruh, That was the game changer. That was the thing that really made me shift my thought process, because I was chasing something that I can never ever control, and that was money. It was currency. God said, Shon, it's currency. It will always move and flow. And he said, Shon, I will always have it flow through you and to you if you have the right relationship and perspective surrounding money.
Yeah, that's
He
good.
said, I need you to understand and look at money as a tool and as a resource that flows, right? Not to hoard, but to flow. And so when he taught me that, that's when I started the coin, the phrase, chase the assignment and not the bag. And see, because that is something that I can hold near and dear to me. That's something I can love, right? My assignment. I love serving people. And so
Yeah.
as long as I kept that at the forefront, money will always flow, right? And that resource, and it's not always about money that I
Right.
need, because some
Right.
things money can't do for me. It's
Right.
favor, right?
Yeah.
It's favor. That's what you may need. So it was me shifting my mind and my thought process of chasing the bag, and then started chasing the assignment. And I'll be honest, man. When we talk about our career, again, my main thing is this, the fatherhood lane. But I tell you, Cole, bro, I probably on one hand, maybe one or two times in my whole career of speaking, solicited a speaking engagement,
Yeah.
like intentionally solicited. I haven't. God has promised me that people will find me, right? And there is an art. There's an art to finding gigs. And I know how to do that, right? I was trained by the best. I know how to do that. But God says, Shon, I'm not going to fill your cup that way. I'm going to send people to you. They will, your tribe, they will find you. I will always have people talk about you in spaces and in rooms, that you didn't even know about. And Cole, I constantly get conversations and calls surrounding people wanting to use my gift, right? And I only say yes to those that I believe that God has assigned me, right? And that's the biggest thing, man. When we're talking about producing results, I wish I can tell people that you do this, and this, and you'll get the results. I do have a blueprint that I believe, but the core of and the fabric of who Shon is of producing results, is number one. Is keeping my heavenly Father first, bro. I'm telling you, I spoke today, and it's funny. One of the things, let me just say this, man, because I want to hear what you had to say. When I first started, one of the things that I admired about ET is that when I was following him, is that he was able to go to various audiences, and he would talk about God. And I struggle, because I'm like, man, how do you go to corporate? How do you go to educational institutions? How do you go to all of these places and you still talk about God? And I struggled, right? Because this was the thing, especially when I was heavily into church, it was just like God would do this, God would do that, and it was no personal responsibility. So here's a motivational speaker, right? People would, you hear like, you got to put in this work, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do. And church is like, God will, God will, God will. As a speaker, you have to. So I struggled in the beginning. And that was something that he took time and taught me how to have both and. Not either or, it's both and. And so now it's extremely comfortable for me to speak to audiences, and to people with the both and, where it's like the cake, they're intertwined together. I can't separate them, right? I can't separate. So that, as a foundational for me, Cole, is that has been my faith. And I do not, and I'm not apologetic about it, because I will not have what I have. I'm not saying what other people have. I'm telling you, I would not have what I have if I was not following Christ. And this is the crazy thing about it. I don't cross every T, and I don't dot every I, and I haven't always. And God still says, Shon, it's not about you, it's about your assignment. And when He convinced me of that and showed me His grace and His mercy, I said, I'll never go back. And that has been the bedrock of my success in this space, man. The foundation, of it. So I have some other points, but I just had to 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 say what's the bedrock and the foundation of what people are seeing. The success in my life, and it wasn't overnight, but the success came from my heavenly Father, hands down.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, I mean, I think that's the other part of this puzzle too, Sean. I think that sometimes people see the polished version and not really understand the background of what it takes to get to that position, to that space, to receive the kind of accolades you receive, to be able to have someone speak about you in a room that you're not in requires work. And for them to speak about you in a way that will actually connect you to additional work requires work and fortitude and all of the things that come along with um, representing when you're talking about shepherdhood and shepherding people to their own success. And in addition to what you just shared, I think for me, when I reflect back on what's been my guiding principle and my guiding force is really just being able to recognize that I am connected to we're all connected. And so when I show up in these spaces, I recognize that I am just like the people that I'm sitting in the audience with. I know what it's like to be in these spaces and operate in these spaces and trying to navigate the world around you. And I'm always cognizant of what's rooted,
Yeah,
and how important it is to just show up with a willingness to be able to listen. So I think for me too, my success has come from learning how to listen
that's good, man.
um, to people,
And I
and
will say that, Cole, you are an incredible listener, bro.
yeah,
That's a gift.
yeah, and I think that comes from, and thank you, right, for recognizing that, and I think that for me that comes from not being listened to. And so the power of what it feels like to enter into a space, to be into a room and not feel like you belong, and feel inadequate and feel insecure, and don't feel like anybody can see you, even though you are, bigger than life sometimes, and you don't feel that. And so I just recognize that there are a lot of people also walking around feeling like they don't belong, and people
Yep,
have created spaces where people don't. They
yep,
make sure that you don't belong, and they make sure that you don't get in, and they do all those things. But and yeah, so I think the it's the you used to talk about the grind. I used to say the grind a lot until I started connecting with you and listening to you, and I realized, oh yeah, grind is the wrong word to use, because if you grind, you just end up grinding down to dust
yep,
because all you do. And so even from being a part of your journey and watching you grow, my friend, I am constantly learning and growing around, just even tweaking my language and just how much language can impact
yep,
how you behave and what you do just by what you say.
yep.
Because what you say is ultimately connected to what you think about, and what you think about tends to be how you feel, and what you
Come on,
feel
man.
tends to come out in how what you do.
Come on, bro.
Um, so just learning that even our words to what we say out loud and to what we say to ourselves can truly have an impact on us and the people that we love. So
That's real.
being a speaker too, man, it's a huge responsibility because
Yes,
you're in a room where people are listening.
yes,
And
sir.
so what you say can bring life, or it could also bring death. And so,
Yeah,
you know, being I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Just being obedient to
yeah,
the power of the word.
yeah, yeah. That's real, man.
Being obedient to
I had an opportunity as one of the news outlets,
mm,
prior to our grand opening, asked me at the end of the interview. They was like, have you always known that you was gonna have this, right?
man.
Were you gonna have this? And I told them. This was my statement. Um, I said, yes, right? I did, and no.
Mm.
Yes, because I knew it was possible, and I had it on my vision board, and I was working towards it. But I said I had to be honest. I really didn't believe that it can happen to me.
Can you say it again? You didn't believe that it could happen to who?
To me and for me. Right? So it was almost like Thomas where he said, I believe but help my unbelief.
Mm.
Because I believed it. I knew it was possible because I've seen him do it in other people's lives. I knew it was possible because he has done amazing things in my life. Right? He healed my wife, my children, done so many miraculous things. But I had to be honest. I
Mm-hmm.
struggled with, but will he do it for me?
Yeah.
And that is where I struggle. But I didn't allow would he do it for me stop me from going. I said I was going to be crazy enough to keep going to see what would happen. I was willing to live the rest of my life trying to see if it was going to really happen. But I knew it was possible, and I believe that there's a lot of people out there that know that it's possible, that that they know it can happen, but they struggle with, but will he do it for me?
Will he do it for me? Will he do it for
That,
me?
and that's that part, man. And so I told him like that was where I struggled, and so now today I know that he'd
Mm-hmm.
do it for me. And so that's why I would yell from the rooftops and I would tell Brother Jay McGee, who's on right now, man. Brother, shout out,
Hey,
man. Love you, good brother. And
come
Shakita,
on.
Shakita Brooks. I
Yeah,
appreciate you guys being on here, and I know you guys are living your best life and doing amazing things. You know,
yeah.
but if I would be irresponsible. I would not be responsible to let people know that it can happen for you. We don't know when, but it can happen for you. We don't know what it will look like, but it can happen for you. Right?
And what's even powerful about that, right, is not only will it happen for you, but it will probably happen in a way that will blow your mind because what you envisioned it being, what God can do,
Come on,
is
man.
completely different than what you could even imagine.
Come on,
And
man.
so I think that's the other part is that sometimes we really don't see it from the version that the creator sees it from. And I think that if we continue to stay consistent in what we do, I mean stay true to our passion because I think that's another thing that is really important. It's a blessing to know what your passion is. It
Come
is
on,
a
man.
blessing to know what you are gifted with, and I think that's why fatherhood is so important. Motherhood is just as important, right? And we talk a great deal about making sure that when we speak about fathers, that we don't that people know that we're not ever talking about that mothers are not
Yeah.
just as important, right? But I think it's really key because I think what fathers can do is really speak, and mothers do it too, but there's something when you hear your father speak your gift into you. When he says to you,
Yes.
son and daughter, I see the gift that you come with.
Yeah.
I see it. Because sometimes we don't, if we don't have people around us to sometimes help us see it, we
Yeah.
don't even believe that it's possible. And I think it's beautiful when our parents and when our fathers can speak those gifts into us to give us the and even the image that it could
Yes.
possible. And I think
Yeah.
that's what mentorship is, why mentorship is so important in this work that we do, because people, when we can't see it, there are people that God also assigns to us that will
Yes.
help us see it in a way
Yes.
that we couldn't even imagine it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm wearing the Delta Project t-shirt, right?
Come on, bro.
This is my nonprofit, and I don't even talk about the work that I do. I tend to just kind of, I move in. I sometimes move in silence because I'm like the work is so big that or so hard sometimes that I don't even celebrate. I just go, just keep going, keep
Yep.
going, keep going.
Yep.
But man, to be able to wear this Delta Project T-shirt, to represent my nonprofit, for people to know that this came about by sitting in a classroom with kids that are in our juvenile justice system.
Come on, man.
This T-shirt that I'm wearing represents an organization. When I simply told a student that there were black and brown men in his community that looked like him, that were successful, that were doing the work, and he turned to me and he said, "Mr. Cole, that sound good." Right? But when I go home to my community, I don't see these black men that you are talking
Yep.
about. And I
Yep.
think it was really that question: how do I become something I don't see? Was the really the North Star for the organization that I do to support kids that are involved in our juvenile justice system.
Yep.
But I think, man, that's the key. If I don't see it,
Yep.
if I can't see it, then is it possible that I could become it? And I think
And
that's
that
why that question.
answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah,
That answer, and I know you know,
yeah,
but the
yeah.
answer is yes
It's yeah.
because we listen. I say this all the time, Cole. If it's dry where you are, go where the water is. If it's
If
dry
it's what?
if it's dry where you are, go where the water is.
Go where the water is.
I'm telling you. And that was the thing, man, is that and I learned that when I was in church, because there were some places, some environments, man, where I was, it was dry. And I'm like, man, why do I have to stay in this place where it's dry?
Come
Where
on,
they
man.
don't want more, where they not going, they talking about it, but the actions does not
It's
reflect of
hard.
what they say. And so I had to
It's
make the
hard.
decision to break away from those other individuals who was willing to stay in the desert. I'm saying I don't have to go up the rough side of the mountain to get what God called me to get. Life will happen to us all, but I'm not intentionally going up the rough side of the mountain. I promise you, I'm not. I'll go up the rough side of the mountain if he called me to go up. David said, "Shall I go?" He said, "Yes, you should go, but not that way." So I'm not going just because everybody else is saying that. And I don't say this, man. I don't say the devil was busy. People say that all the time. The devil is busy. You know what? God is busy. God is busy. And so I don't have time to focus on what the enemy is doing when I'm focusing on what my heavenly Father is doing. If he gave me assignment, it's not my responsibility to make it happen. It's my responsibility to stay in the flow. It's my responsibility to stay focused on my assignment. Listen, I don't have I don't know all things. He does. So when he said I have people in that city, I listen, man. I said, God, I want to go to Lansing. I want to expand this thing. Do you know how many people I have met that is in Lansing that's looking for what we have? Bro, since 2 weeks, since these last 2 weeks, I have met people in high positions in Lansing saying that we need you. Bro, before I started talking about Lansing, nothing was coming. Nothing was coming. I showed my daughter today. She was like, "Dad, let's leave and let's go get something to eat." I said, "Not yet, babe. 10 minutes ago. Dad, let's leave and get something to eat." "Not yet, babe." And then this lady walked up to me, high official in Lansing. She said, "We just got all of this money looking for something that you provide." And once we got done talking, I looked at my daughter. I said, "Now we can
I
go."
want to go get something to eat. Yeah.
Because it's about staying in the flow. It's about staying in the flow because I know what I'm asking for. Because it's not about me, Cole. It's about the assignment. And so, what if I would have left that father, that child, that mother who need an answer, who need a solution? Now I'm gonna be irresponsible and go get something to eat, and they whole life depend on my obedience? Nah, bruh. No, no, no,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
no.
So trust the assignment and trust yourself,
Come on,
right? Because that's what we're
come on.
also saying. Trust and believe in yourself. We believe in so many things outside of ourselves too, but I think it's so important to learn how to truly believe in yourself.
Come on,
I was
man.
just talking to a parent about, like, how do we know when our children learn how to love themselves? When do when do we teach them self-love? When do they learn how to like themselves and appreciate themselves and love themselves? And as parents, when do we do that? When do we give them those tools and tips? Because I think it's really hard to
Yeah,
motivate, to push yourself,
yeah,
uh, when you're carrying all these other thoughts and ideologies about who you are that don't align with this idea of who you can become.
yeah,
I think it takes a lot of work,
yep,
internal work, to
yep,
truly, stand up in who you are, in your identity, and
yep,
and and trust it,
yep,
as
yep,
blindly we trust all the other things.
yep,
We trust vehicles when we know driving a vehicle is the
yep,
it's the most
yep,
dangerous thing to do in the world, but we
yep,
trust it. We
yep,
trust that the chair when we sit down will hold us up because it has its four legs. We trust these things, but
man,
yet we lack trust in ourselves and our beliefs and our vision and our dreams. And
man.
that can be stemmed back from a host of other things that have come up in our lives that tell us we're not enough.
That's good.
Uh, I think that if we can get to a place where you know that you are enough and you're worth it, then you just become, a vessel of putting that into practice day in and day out, one bite at a time. That's it. And I think that's been my learning lesson, is that I just take a bite at a time,
That's good.
and not eat a whole bunch,
That's good.
because you eat a whole bunch, it's
Yeah,
it's it's hard. It's hard when you're eating too much. But if you eat a bite at a time and just trust it, you'll
yeah.
you'll you'll see it on the other side.
That's good, man. You made me think about something when you said that. I go back to. I'm gonna go back to the scripture one more time.
Yeah.
Uh, Blind Bartimaeus, he's blind. Um, Jesus came through. He
Mm,
needed healing. He was calling Jesus out. He couldn't see Jesus. The disciples and the people around Jesus was trying to shut my man up.
mm,
He refused to be shut up. He refused to allow them to shut his mouth. Cole, you got to think about it. He couldn't see him, but he heard him. He heard him. He heard a sound. He heard a sound. And because he heard a sound that nobody else didn't hear, he
yeah.
refused to allow them because they didn't hear the sound. They didn't
Yeah.
hear the shift. And you said, how do you teach your children? We have to hear the sound. I'm here with my daughter. I heard the sound. We sitting there at dinner, and I heard the sound. The Lord said, have this conversation. And this conversation was simple, but I know it was one that would speak to her purpose and destiny. Not super deep, but it was important for this moment. My simple question to her was, what do you bring to the table? When you meet a man, what do you bring to the table? And so my whole thing, Cole, is that, she started to say some stuff, and then I said, you know what, let me model this for you. If a woman asks me, what do I bring to the table? If I was starting all over again, this is what I bring to the table. And she was like, yep, I got it. And then she began to run down all of these things of what she bring to the table. And so as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm thinking about my son. My son had a track meet today, and he did fairly well. But I know him, he's a competitor. And because
Mhm.
he didn't come in first, I know he is struggling. So when I hang up with you, because I hear a sound, he is not going to go and tell people how he feel.
Right.
Is silenced by himself, the enemy will start telling him who he's not. And that can be the moment where the enemy could start really messing with my son's psyche of telling
Yeah.
him that he's not enough. But I need him to understand the competition, the level where he is now. These guys is on another level. You're just in another bracket. You still elite, but you're at another. So he need to understand that, and so it's the responsibility of the parent to hear the sound and know when we're supposed to have certain conversations. Because if
And
I
what
leave my son to his own devices, Cole, right now, it can destroy his confidence.
and what's beautiful about what you also said too, right, is that in order for a parent to hear the sound, they also have to be well. It's really difficult to hear the sound when you are not well. It's hard to hear anything
Come on, man.
when your mental health is not well, when you have not eaten, when you are stressed, when you are tired, when you're overwhelmed, when you're burnt out, when you're afraid, when you're frightened, when you're scared, when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling
Good, man.
all those things. It is really, really hard to have an ear to hear your children's needs when your needs have not been heard and you can't
Good,
hear
man.
your own either, right? And so that is, I think, as we're sharing this, we have also been in a place too where we have had to learn how to listen so that we can hear ourselves, so that we could be better equipped to be able
Mm,
to be and hear our own children. I had to learn how to sit in silence.
come
Like
on.
I didn't, silence was not a thing I enjoyed. Small talk, I struggled in things because small talk requires silence and uncomfortable. Like anything that required silence frightened me. So I needed to put things in my life that made noise because when I was left alone to my own devices or my own thinking, I didn't like what I was hearing. So
Go
again,
deeper into that, man. Those
well,
that's listening, that may look different for somebody else. What does that
yeah,
look like? That silence, man.
yeah, for me, that silence started to do what you just described as it relates to your son. Like all of it is very universal. Like this idea of like sometimes in our silence we start to listen to the things that creep up in us that tell us what we're not, especially if we're not comfortable in silence. Especially if when we've had experiences with silence, things happen in silence, right? And so
Good.
I think what's really important for parents and just even building with our children is to learn to love ourselves, connect with ourselves, so that we need silence. Silence is when you can hear.
Good,
But
man.
if I'm surrounded by nothing but noise and chaos, then it really becomes very difficult to be able to give our children what they need so that they can hear their own voices. And
That's
so I had to learn as a parent sometimes to stop talking and stop giving all of this advice that my children are not asking for so that they can learn to hear their own voice. Because if what I started to do and what I know many parents do that I work with is that they give their opinions, their thoughts, all of these things, and sometimes before you know it, your voice in your children's mind becomes theirs too. So
that's
we
good.
have to be very careful about what we say to our children because the things we say ultimately will echo in them enough where it becomes theirs. And
That's
so
good.
sometimes we'll unpack this stuff in them that we weren't even intentionally trying to do, but we were burnt out, we were overwhelmed, we were stressed, we were hurting, we were scared, we were depressed, we were lonely, we were absent of those things that we needed, that unintentionally we start giving some of that stuff to our children. And sometimes that becomes the cycle that begins to repeat itself.
That's
And that's why this stuff is so important. I want to be successful, but if I've never experienced it or never even seen somebody I love complete a goal, complete a task that they dreamed about, I've asked children, how many of you have lived with a parent who always talked about a dream, always had a goal, but never reached it? And
mm,
many of the kids I work with will raise their hand. And so I had to learn, oh my gosh, my children had to see me set a goal. We think that we have to we tell kids set a goal and accomplish it, but children really do model after us. They
yes,
have to see
bro.
your goal. They have to see you reach them. They
Yes,
have to see you
bro.
celebrate and cry because you reached that goal because it was so
Yes,
tough.
bro.
So that they can model what it is. So it's not just something that they heard you say, it's something that they watched you do because in return they become that too.
Yes, bro.
So there's power. There's power in modeling and it's power in mentoring. And it's all of those things are the best ingredients for you reaching the end goal, whatever that goal is, and finding your passion. And I think that's key, man. That's key into
I love
whatever
it.
you define as.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. Listen, hey, McGee, he says, as I've become more mature, silence has been the balance that has allowed me to be more effective as a husband, father, and a
man.
leader. When I hear you all talk about silence, I think about the scripture, one of my favorite: be still and know that I am God. Come on,
Come,
bro. Come
come
on,
on,
bro. Come
come
on,
on,
bro. That
come
right
on.
there in itself will
That's
preach.
it.
because
That's it.
it's in the noise, right? McGee, you are absolutely right, man.
Yeah.
Is that it's in the noise that where the distraction is, and where
Yes.
God is saying like, "Yo, just stand still." Right? Just even add another scripture where he said, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Just
Yeah.
know that I got your back. Right?
Mm,
Just know that I am God. He told Moses to tell him, he said, man, tell him that I am sent you. Right?
man.
Just I am. And that I am is like whatever and whoever you need me to be in that moment, that's who sent you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
am that.
McGee, you already know. What's even beautiful in silence is that when you do get an opportunity to practice it and you learn it, you ultimately start to hear things that you have never heard before.
Come on, man.
And what's even more beautiful like that for me too is that there are days when I get up early in the morning so I can simply hear the birds. And I never woke my kids up early enough to just enjoy the sounds of the world around them. I
Yeah.
thought the sounds around them, they heard my joy when I turned on the music, when I listened to jazz and when I listened to hip
Come
hop
on, man.
and I listened to all of these things that were created by man, right? But it's something to be heard when your ears hear the sound of the earth around you,
Come on,
right?
man.
And the crickets and to be able to enjoy that because I think that also teaches humanity and that teaches us that we are small but yet we are all the same. And I think that that is really important in silence too, because that's when you find, part that we're so small in how big this universe is.
Come on, man.
So we have to be connected to things outside of ourselves in
Yeah.
a natural way.
That's good, bro.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's don't
No,
get me,
listen,
I
man. Yeah. Yeah. No, this
keep
this
that
is
I keep
good,
that
man.
wrapped up.
Yeah. No, this is good,
Yeah,
Cole. You mean like you mean if we was to put this in a synopsis, right? For tonight, what we're talking about is number one, we have to be okay and get comfortable with silence.
yeah, for sure.
Silence is one of the ingredients of success,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
I, yeah, yeah. And I would say, and when you hear and pay attention to what the silence is telling you too,
Yeah.
because if you are silent and you start to hear things that make you struggle, then I think that's again things we have to assess for ourselves too.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
deep root
Shakita
work
said
needed.
deep root work is needed and necessary. It is, right?
Absolutely,
Especially in that
absolutely.
silence, man. And that's the thing
Yeah,
is that in that silence, that's where a lot of work can be done. It's like fishing, right? You sit there all day long and then finally something to bite, but it's in the silence, right? It's
yeah,
in that waiting. And then when the opportunity comes for you to work on that deep rooted thing, my thing is
yeah,
just stay the course, right? It's gonna tug. Your emotions like, no, I don't want to deal with this. It's gonna pull away, like, nope, right? That fish is like, yo, get me off this hook. I don't want to deal with this right now. But when you're like, no, I'm adamant that I'm gonna
yeah,
catch this fish, and it has to be the same way with your healing. Is that yo?
yeah,
I'm gonna stay in here long enough so that way I can catch this fish and I can gut this fish.
yeah. And even if you don't catch the fish that day,
Yep,
you just keep coming back with because the
yep,
idea is that one day you will.
yep.
You know.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. No, this is
for
good, man.
yeah, man.
Yo,
Yeah,
chase your assignment, not the bag. People, we got one shot. We got one shot at this thing. And with your one shot, my thing is what you gonna do with it. You got one shot. And my challenge, man, to all of us tonight is to be better today than we were yesterday, and to be better tomorrow than we are today. That's our time.
yeah.
So we do have an announcement as we leave, right? We didn't inform everybody. Um, So we are shifting things up a little bit, right? So that way, one of the things we realize is that we want to be consistent. We want to be committed to this. This is important. But we are extremely busy, right? And we do not want to take you guys for granted and not put out valuable content and be mindful of your time. And so, what we have done is that we've decided to start recording in person, right? And we're going to move from going live for a little bit, and we will have spontaneous lives. We will have
Yeah,
spontaneous lives, right? So that way we can connect with the people, and when we do that, we have an announcement that will come out to say, "Hey, we going live this week or on this date." But what we're gonna do, we're gonna move to in person. Podcasts. And so, with that being said, we are going to release new episodes twice a month. And
twice a
so
month.
we're looking at either the first and third Thursdays or second and fourth. And so, if let's be very intentional, right? So today, if we are honest, today is the second. So it look like we are going to release
Wait,
podcasts on first and third because this is the second, right? We're live, so we will release podcasts on the odd Thursdays of the month. Am I correct, Cole?
that's correct.
All
That's
right.
correct.
So the
In
odd,
person,
yeah, in
right?
person. So we're gonna be in person, and so our videographer, our content creator, he is going to release the videos on our platforms, and it's gonna be released on YouTube and all of the other platforms, streaming platforms. But it's gonna give a different type of energy because we're all be in the same room and not here virtually. So we wanted to let you guys know before we did it, so you know exactly is going down. And my daughter, yeah, I was about to say my daughter is being crazy behind me. I was about to put her on blast on live Facebook. So yeah, she stopped now. Yeah, she
She
was.
was like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah,
buddy."
yeah. She says not needed. She's standing on the bed, jumping like a big kid. So yeah. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we wanted to let you guys know so that you know what's popping and how we are moving forward, man. So listen, man, we love you guys. We love rocking
Yeah.
with you. And yo, just go ahead and be great, right? Cole, do you have anything before we get out?
Hey man, you hit it all on the nail. I think that we just gonna continue to do what we've been doing, just even with more intentionality and more focus, with the intent of continuing to share the stories about parents and fathers, but most importantly, bringing people into the space where we can continue to be students and listeners as it relates to how. I mean, we all are trying to figure this thing out, man.
Yeah, buddy.
So I'm excited to be moving in person.
Yeah.
And also, too, we don't often talk about this, but the idea of that if we have listeners that have a guest or someone they know would be interested as being a guest on our show, we'd love to learn more about that person, and begin to have an opportunity to shine a light on all other folks
Yep.
um, that are doing this great work too. So
And this
there's a
is the
story we
thing.
want.
And this is the thing. They don't have to be
Say that.
perfect, right?
No, no,
They
no,
don't have right?
not
They
at
don't
all.
have to be perfect, but we want to bring value to the audience, man. So you are absolutely correct, Cole.
For sure.
All right,
Well,
man.
listen, brother. Have a good night, man.
All right, man. I'll see you later, man. All right, people.
Bye, people.